Okay, hands are quiet, bodies are quiet, feet are quiet. Thank you, Bryce. Okay. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm quiet now. I saw Fran.
My name is Rolf, and here I immigrated to this United States in 1928. I was 9 years old. I have here my passport. I'm on the right side. Talk about passports. Everybody, when you travel from one country to another, you have to have a passport. As far as I know, the only exceptions are Canada and Mexico, if you're a United States citizen. If you're not a United States citizen and you go into Mexico, it behooves you to have a passport. And the reason I mention this is, someday in your life, you're going to be traveling, you'll need one. And all they are, basically, is an identification that guarantees by the United States that you are a citizen. So here, I'm going to pass this around, okay?
Oh gosh, are you sure you want him? Can I do that? You want me to hold it and open so the kids won't be touching it?
Oh, they can pick it up.
Okay, you guys.
Just be careful. So here's my picture. You can see there's difference. This is in German. You won't be able to read it anyway. That's my mother, and this is my brother and myself. So you can just pass it on, okay?
Please be very careful.
All right. It was in 1928, 27 rather, that my parents decided to come to the United States because conditions in Europe at that time were in an upheaval, and we had relatives in San Francisco. So, in other words, when you immigrated into a country, you had to have somebody there that knew you and that would go to bat for you financially. So if you had problems and you needed money, you had somebody there to help you. Because no country wants somebody that doesn't have any money, because that means the country has to support them, and then that's the business of supporting people. All right. I started in Germany. Well, I started right here in the middle. And then I went from here across the Atlantic, down through here into the Panama Canal, all the way up here to San Francisco. Now, the whole trip, going across here, probably took 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Now, okay, I'll start again now. We're leaving Germany. It's quite an occasion, you know, here, especially when you're small. Just a passenger liner, it also carried freight. And that's the basic line. Well, we had about maybe 25 to 40 passengers on board. I don't remember exactly. And we stopped there, and now, the first stop, in Belgium, I don't know, I think they speak French in Belgium. Some type of dialect of French. Anyway, you wake up in the morning and you hear all these people working on a ship, they're loading things on, and they're speaking a language you don't understand. So just imagine now if you woke up in the morning and all of a sudden everybody around you spoke a different language. Okay, it's kind of a weird feeling to start with, you know. All right, now the longest part of the trip was from there across the Atlantic to Panama. Now, you're on a ship like that, they're fairly slow, and there isn't really that much to do. You had to amuse yourself because there wasn't any other children on board. It was just my brother and myself. So we couldn't play ball or anything like that. So it does get a little monotonous. It was also different every day. The water looks the same, but still it isn't. I mean, it changes all the time. And here, some days there were real big waves. Like I was standing on the rail one day, watching the water, and here, wham, the wave hit the side of the ship, and right over, I was soaking wet, just like that. So, but here, okay, that's I mean, that's the Atlantic. It was just, like I say, it gets a little monotonous because didn't go fast. I don't know how many knots. I can't tell you how many miles per hour we went, but it wasn't very fast. So, but we did stop a week in Panama because the ship loaded on bananas. Now that was something to see. Here, there, they got a gangway going up to the ship. You got all these workers. They got big truckloads of banana out there. They go along and they pick up a stuck banana and put it on their head. They walk aboard ship, and it gets taken down below and stacked. I don't know how, just exactly how, because they wouldn't let us go down there. But all I know is, on the way up to San Francisco, we had all the bananas we wanted to eat. Now, you've all heard about the Panama Canal. It's quite a trip. In my lifetime, I've been through the canal 3 different times. And it's always amazing. A big ship will go into this lock, and that is like a big box, and big doors, like they open like this. And here, the ship gets in there, and it has lines coming from both sides. And here, they shut the door, the water gets pumped in, and the ship raises up. And raises up and up. When it gets the same level as the one on the other side, you have another big lock on the other side. The ship goes up. They open the gate, the ship goes through into the other side. And then it goes right on through and down the river into a big lake, Ontoon Lake. And when you get to the far Pacific side, see, the thing is, there's so much elevation difference between the Atlantic and here, the Pacific. There's a certain amount of elevation difference. Then the lake is up high, so they have to bring us up to this lake and then drop us back down again to the Pacific side. So it's quite an experience to watch the ship being put through the canal. It's always amazing. And here, when they go through the ship doesn't go under power. They have a railway car on each side, and they got lines going to the ship, and they pull it on through the gate. Those different locks. So anyway, that was all very interesting.
Which is higher? I wasn't listening. Which is higher?
Now, if you have any questions, I mean, you want to ask me any questions?
Well, I just wanted to know, is the Atlantic or the Pacific?
I can't tell.
Oh,
But there's a
okay.
difference.
Tides.
Because the tides are
The
just,
tides,
yeah. See, but the real reason is they use Ontoon Lake, which is higher
Real
than the
high.
Atlantic or the Pacific.
Right.
So they have to bring
They
you
have
up
to
to
adjust.
it. That's right. They bring you up to it, and then they have to lower you back down again. Sorry, I stepped on somebody's foot. So, yeah.
How do they get the colors of the flag black, red, and orange?
How does what?
How do they get the colors of the flag black, red, and orange?
I can't understand.
The flag. He wants to know what the colors mean on the flag.
Oh, I really don't know. Now,
Okay.
either, now this is not really correct. I'm pretty sure they
yellow?
have white, red, and black with the
Oh.
old flag. Now, what it is today, I don't know. But here, when I was a youngster, that's the way it was.
And I've seen it
I
with
remember
yellow.
that, yeah. So, okay, what was I? What was that?
You're in the canal.
Yeah, we're going through the canal, and you know, like I said, I've been through that canal in my lifetime. I've been through there 3 different times, going either direction. And here, funny, in some places it's fairly narrow. You can see animals on the shore, like you see these big iguanas. Oh, some of them are enormous, laying down, sunning on the bank, on the rock. And you're going up from Panama on the Pacific. That's a nice, mostly sunshine. I remember sunshine, blue water, blue skies, and it was a real nice trip going up. I remember that much. And the Atlantic, in comparison, was kind of dull. Thank you. There was something else. But I skipped something here. Stop and think. Oh yeah, okay, now, I'm in San Francisco. I knew I was getting to something. Okay, I'm in San Francisco. Now, what you children don't realize is you come to a different country, especially the language. You don't know how to speak English. I spoke nothing but German, and so it's very difficult. And 2 weeks after I got here, they told us, my brother and myself, you're going to school. So, man, I mean, we've been looking at, small primers, books and stuff, so we could try to learn the language. Well, in Germany, all young boys wear short pants. When we got here, all the kids wore long pants. My mother could not see us wearing long pants. So we had to go to school with short pants.
So you stood out right away.
We stood out like a sore thumb. Plus the fact that we couldn't speak English. And the other thing was, since we couldn't speak English, they started us off for the first 2 weeks in the kindergarten, just for an acclimation. They did have an interpreter for us, a young lady that was bilingual, and so that helped a lot.
And how old were you?
9.
9. Can you imagine, boys and girls, your first day of school as a 9-year-old because you couldn't speak English?
I was supposed to be in the 5th grade, and we started down the bottom and went right down up each grade, little by little, as we improved.
Oh, so the better your English was, the better.
As the better our English got, the further up we went. And then, of course, and so, anyway, you just picture yourself going someplace where you don't know how to speak the language and mixing in and having to communicate. If you're lucky, you have somebody with you that can speak the language. But it helps a lot. But you really try hard to learn. And the fact that they put us in the kindergarten, actually, it might sound cruel, but it isn't, because we learned the basics of the English language real quick. Jack and Jill and up the hill, and things like that. It sounds very bad to you right now because you're way past that.
Oh, we are.
But if you don't know anything, where are you going to start? You have to start somewhere. And that's what they did with us. So later on you hit a plateau where you can speak a certain amount of English and you mix it in with a certain amount of German and people understand you. And then after a while, and the rule at home was no German spoken at home. In some ways it's a real shame. It helps when you want to learn a language, but it's a real shame because you do forget the language. I can speak very poor German right now because for the simple reason I never learned the basic grammar. See? And technical things that I don't understand at all. It's written in German.
Can I ask you how to say a couple of things? The kids will want to know.
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Like here. Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen.
That means good morning. Dankeschön. Thank you. And here, let's see.
This is German.
Thank you. I gotta stop and see. That's the thing when you're trying to. I have to do what I used to do it in reverse. See?
Yeah.
I used to have to
Think
translate
about English and
my German into English. Now I have to do it the other way around because it's been good many years. See, in fact, it's about 70 years.
Boys and girls, hold your questions.
Yeah, I think now we have time for a question session.
Okay, and we're going to, while they're asking questions, boys and girls, is it okay if they start filling out their passport?
Of course.
Okay, boys and girls, we're going to go to the,
You
and then you can ask questions.
If you have a question, raise your hand, I'll come over and listen to you.
We're going to the next page, boys and girls, where our speaker is Mr. Paper, and from Germany, and you're going to write down something you learned about Germany and the flag, and we'll answer questions.
Well, I have one thing I want to mention.
Okay.
The alphabet is the same as far as the letters go, but the pronunciation is different. Like here, A is A, E is A, and sometimes I haven't seen it for so long. Like W is pronounced like a V.
Like a V. So your name,
It's pink back.
Pink buck.
But what he was supposed to be with a
Big
B.
buck.
Of course, nobody pronounces it that way, see? But here, so, I mean, that is one of the things that you have to get by when you're learning a different language. Is how to pronounce the alphabet. Okay, any questions now?
Anybody? Bryce, did you have a question?
Don't be afraid to ask me a question.
Okay.
How long did it take for you to get from?
From where I left to where I went? 1 month. I'll put it this way, we stopped here in Panama for almost a week loading bananas. So from Germany or Deutschland, it took about 10 days or so to get over to here. I'd say 2 weeks. And we spent about a week here, and it took us almost a week to go up to San Francisco because we stopped in Los Angeles to unload bananas. Altogether, it was about a trip.
Are still in production? Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question.
He has a question right behind you.
How's Germany like?
Just like here, people, the cars, and all that. I was over there in Germany about 5 years ago, and here, it's still, I mean, there's people there just like, you can't, if somebody put you in the middle and you didn't hear them speaking, you didn't see any lighting, you think you were in the United States. The cities, the streets, everything is basically the same.
Right behind you, Rolf.
All right, here.
Michael, where's your passport?
The money, same as ours, except it's staffed different. You know, that's something I could have lost somebody.
Yeah,
I
that's
have some floating around.
money.
But they have paper money, but it's printed differently, of course. It's Deutsche Mark. And the coins are marked like penny or
Grade
penny.
7.
From the 20, that's 25, like there. To count in German,
Marissa, sit down, please.
to count in German
Sit
is
down.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 9, 9, and 10. Now, you're, I remember like 75, we say 75. In German it's 5 und 17. Or, it's just the other way around. Like you pronounce the 10 first.
Okay, he learned it.
Really? All right, let me tell you. I'll look at the map and then I can tell you pretty much. The country itself, from here, around here, like this, comparatively speaking, I think it would take in here Washington, Oregon, and probably over half of California. That's just nothing. It's not anywhere near as big as the United States.
About 1 more minute, boys and girls, and we'll have to start. 1 more minute.
Deutsch. But that's Germany. They say Germany nowadays. Deutschland.
Oh, 1 more question. Yeah.
What do I usually like? At what age? Or not? What I usually like. All right. I'll tell you one thing. It's not like California because you're at a different latitude. I'll tell you, compare again. I'll tell you. Here, Germany.
We're gonna learn about the weather in Germany.
The weather there is probably about the same as Washington and Oregon, the northern part, because you're basically in the same latitude.
Oh, the same line, boys
See
and
here?
girls, across
Here's
the
Portland.
earth.
There's France. So the weather would be about the same as Washington.
Okay, boys and girls at this table, close up your boxes and line up at the next row.
I was just
What
wondering,
do you think?
I was just wondering if you missed your family when you came here. Your cousins. Did you not be a good one today?
No, I didn't miss it.
Forget that.
9 years old. You know, I had my mother with me.
I thought maybe you had cousins or.
We did, but here.
You didn't miss it.
No, we didn't miss it because we weren't that, you know, we were living in different areas. As a youngster, I moved to myself. We were split up a lot. My dad went to sea, and so one of us would be with my grandmother or an aunt or something like that.
We'll see you next door in a half hour for some refreshments.
All right,
We've got donuts and juice.
all right.
Always.
Darcy.
Say goodbye. How do you say goodbye? Say goodbye because that's a jerk.
Auf Wiedersehen!
Okay, good. All right, great.
In this room, we'll learn about Germany. So if you're facing in a direction so you can't see our speaker, you're welcome to move your chair around. Be excellent listeners. You're fine.
Good morning. My name is Rolf. And here, I'm an immigrant from Germany. I arrived in this country in 1928. I was 9 years old. Now, Germany as a country is pretty much like here. Your climate is a little colder, like instead of living where you do, Germany is a little higher. So if you go across here, the climate would be the same as if you were living in Washington or Oregon. You had snow in the winter, lots of rain. So that just gives you an idea for the setting. It has lots of nice mountains and lakes. It's a beautiful country. Now, but back in 1928, 27, things were kind of much of an upheaval. So my parents decided to immigrate to America because here that was a land of opportunities. We had relatives already over here, so we had a sponsor. You know what a sponsor is? I tell you, a sponsor is somebody that will stand up for you in case you have difficulties so that you don't have to fall back on the government to take care of you. So that was the one required item in order to immigrate into the United States. Okay. So anyway, my dad came over here in 1927, got settled, got a job. In 1928, my mother and my brother and myself embarked on a ship. And it was not a cruise liner. In those days, they had big liners. But here, this was a freighter that carried passengers also. In other words, maybe 35, 40 passengers, and the rest was freight. Here, when we embarked from Hamburg, let me stand over here. Hamburg is about in here. We went down through here. We went into Belgium, which is, I think, I'm not exactly sure, it doesn't say, but it's part of France here, on the edge of France. And here we took on a load of things. I remember walking around, I mean, we were there a few days. We loaded, taking on freight. And here, we were able to walk around and take in the sights before we left there. Now here, the longest trip was from Belgium all the way down to Panama. We would go about, I'd say roughly at sea for 2 weeks. Now that seems today, by today's standard, that seems like a long time.
That's
Because now you can get on a plane and you can go across the Atlantic in a few hours. Questions afterwards, okay? And here, so anyway, the days at sea were kind of long, and they were interesting in a way that every day was different. Sometimes we had smooth days, other days we had rough days. Once I was on deck. I mean, that's my brother and I. We mostly played around on deck with around the deck machinery and stuff like that. We just kept ourselves amused one way or another. Like I say, we were the only children on board. And one day I was standing by the rail watching the water, because it's quite interesting. You kind of get mesmerized. You stand on the rail and you watch that water going by, splashing around. And a big wave come along, bang, I was soaking wet, just like that. But here, so the shipboard itself wasn't bad. We had our own cabin. Each had our own bunk. The meals were just like anywhere else, except, of course, I don't know how many of you children have ever had any concentrated milk or condensed milk. They didn't have fresh milk. They had refrigeration, of course, but they didn't eat fresh milk for 2 weeks. So we ended up, to get our milk, we used condensed milk. And to this day, I don't like it. And unless you've ever had it, you really don't know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't really matter. But in Panama, we had a nice stay down there. We were there about a week. They were loading bananas. And it was quite interesting to watch how they load bananas. They didn't use mechanical loaders, they used men. Each man would carry a stalk banana on his head, walk aboard, and hand it to somebody, and it would get put down into the ship. So that's where the expression comes from. What would you do? Come in on a banana boat? Anyhow, so, and we were able to go, of course, go ashore down there. And it was quite interesting in a different place entirely. Altogether different lifestyle and everything down there compared to up here. So from there we went on up to Los Angeles and we unloaded bananas for a couple of days. And from there we went to San Francisco. Well, that's when things got a little sticky because I didn't know how to speak English. And I don't know how many of you people ever ran into the situation where you couldn't understand what somebody was talking about. Well, try going to school and not knowing how to speak the language. And to top that off, in Germany, youngsters, boys, wear short pants. It wasn't exactly a uniform, but that was what everybody wore. And when we came to this country, we wanted long pants like everybody else had, but my mother insisted that we wear short pants. So we went to school, didn't know how to speak English, we wore short pants. So just figure in your mind how you would like that. You wouldn't like it, would you? Especially when you stick out like a sore thumb. Everybody's looking at you and all that. And then the other thing is, since we didn't know how to speak English, they put us into kindergarten for 2 weeks. Just, excuse me, as an introduction to and get acclimated. We were lucky in one sense that we had a young lady as an interpreter. And that helped us a lot. At least we had an idea of what was expected of us. And through the early readers and books and stuff, we slowly learned the language. And then they advanced us to each grade as we fulfilled whatever requirements things were required of us. So we finally got up to the grade where we belonged. And we learned to speak English in a very short time, comparatively speaking. So now, do we have any questions? What, no questions? All right, speak Speak loud, please, I'm hard of hearing.
If they didn't give fresh milk in 2 weeks, that's how long our spring break is.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So they can-
The whole trip took a month. Yeah, the whole trip started from the time we left Germany. It took us, by the time we loaded up in here and got going, it was almost 2 weeks before we got to here, or no, almost 3. And we spent a week here, and it took us another week to go from here up to here, because we made a stop at Los Angeles. So the whole trip took a month. Yeah. But when you look at today's standards, where you can fly all the way around the world in a week, why, or 12 days, why then here it's really something. So any more questions? Oh yeah, here's one over here. Then I want to talk about passports. What's your question?
What would you like to eat?
Well, that was the thing about menu on a ship. It isn't what you like or dislike. You ate what they cooked. You didn't order anything. Each day they had a menu. You might have 2 choices, but that's about it. See? So that's how it went. Like I say, if I wanted milk, I had condensed milk. Okay, over here. What?
Juice. Get some water.
Did we have juice?
And more.
No, I don't know. I think we had some kind of juice. I don't remember exactly. That's been a long time. Hey, man, lady, that's been here about 70 years ago. I don't remember what I had for breakfast. Oh, yeah, all right.
What was it like in Germany?
Here, like anywhere else, I mean, as a youngster, it was fine. I went to school every day, and here, laid it out just like you do. And like I said, Germany is a beautiful country. The schools were a little stricter than they are here. That's right. You spoke out of turn. The teacher, or headmaster, he would ask you to bend over, and he had a ruler about so long, and he might give you 1 or 2 whacks off the bottom. Yeah, I don't know how they are now, but that's, in my day, that's the way it was. No, I did want to mention passports. I don't know how many you people are familiar with passports.
Schools don't do
But
that.
this is my passport. And as long as you learn it, a passport is nothing more than a national identification. In other words, it says the United States will verify you to be a citizen of America. You have to have one when you go to any other country except Canada or Mexico.
Yeah.
So, I thought I'd mention that because lots of you people will be traveling in your lifetime. Now you have a question over here.
I'm ready to go to Mexico and I'm
Am I what?
Are you married?
Am I married? Yes, my wife is over there. Fact is, I'm a great-grandfather. I have, how many great-grandchildren do I have?
10. No, 10. 10 great.
7?
10.
10. I have, and how many grandchildren?
3 and 4. 14.
I have 14 grandchildren and 10 great-grandchildren.
That must be hard to take care of 14
And for your information, I'll be 82 years old this year.
14 grandchildren.
So I did it on a little. I know you young people, you think that's real old, but when you look back on it, it's not old enough. I mean, you want to go on and on and on.
Rolf, mention that Allison is your great-granddaughter.
Oh,
She
yeah.
goes to school.
Allison Kalinowski is my great-granddaughter. And also Andrew Kalinowski.
Allison Kalinowski?
Allison, in your room? Yes, that's Allison's mom.
That's why I'm here today. She asked me to do this.
We appreciate that she asked you if you came.
I did it for Andrew 2 years ago.
Made you. No, did she make you?
So any more questions?
Can you say something in German for them?
Oh, can I?
No.
I've already said good morning, haven't I?
Yeah.
That's it in New Jersey.
Oh, it's kind of difficult to just come up with something on the spur of the moment.
Why don't you say your name?
My name?
Yeah.
It's Rolf Pickford.
But how's it pronounced in
Everybody
German?
pronounces this as a W in this country, but in Germany it's pronounced as a V. In other words, my name would be Pinkbach. But the A is very broad. Like the alphabet is different. In the sense that it's pronounced different. The letters are the same, but here it's A, A, C, and K. Here, W is pronounced as a V. And don't get me into it. I haven't been into that for years and years. My language isn't all that good. That's my problem.
There's a question right here.
I went to here. They started me up in school, but I didn't know anything, and they started teaching me. We went to start. I started in the. I was 9 years old. I went into kindergarten for 2 weeks or so. I was in the kindergarten learning the basic language, like you do when you first was in kindergarten. I mean, you knew how to speak because your parents taught you, but I had to have somebody else teach me because my parents didn't know how to speak English that good either. They had to learn also. But you have to learn something. You learn it.
There's 2 more questions.
They'll never run out of questions.
Huh?
They'll never run out of questions,
Yeah.
those 2 boys.
When was I born? 1919.
I didn't know that was you.
Huh?
I didn't know that was you.
Yeah.
Like the way you do it.
Tell me what you saw.
He wants me to see girls go out.
Oh, I can't say the whole alphabet. I don't remember.
Go ahead and start
Like
with
I say,
that.
it's been 70-some years since I used it.
See the
Nice.
Do you want us to pronounce that W as a V, or do you want to always say to make it a W?
No, write it as a W, but it's pronounced like a V.
You don't make it in a V, you pronounce it. Okay, now, there's something else I want to say. No, it's gone. I know you want me to speak some German, but I can't think of anything right now except Dankeschön.
It's a good thing for them to learn.
What does it mean?
What does it mean? Dankeschön, what does it mean?
I said Dankeschön, that
What
means
is-
thank you.
Well, you didn't tell them. You got another question here, all. There's a question here and there.
To get all the
When I say yes, of course, it sounds like German.
Took it 2 weeks to
You'll find a lot of words are kind of hard for you to say. I don't know how to pronounce it. The pronunciation is different. The alphabet is different. Something that you have to just learn.
Well, this lady in purple right here.
Oh,
You should ask your wife to talk.
now I'm asking.
Speak and
Spell 2 T W.
What was the milk I had where? In Germany? Drink the cow. The only time we had that milk was when I was on the ship. Right? That's what I'm saying. Because the milk wouldn't keep long enough on the ship, so they have to have canned milk.
Yes, that is applied in Germany.
But over in Germany, we have cow's milk. Everything else is like you have here.
red, orange.